Hi, Mia. Yesterday, I realized something.
That sounds interesting. What happened?
I was watching a video about ordering coffee in English, and I thought, this is easy. Then I stopped the video and asked myself a simple question. If I walked into a coffee shop right now, what would I actually say?
That's a great topic. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Speak English with Podcasts. Today, we're talking about something almost every English learner will do someday, ordering coffee.
And I have a feeling it's one of those situations that looks easy until it's your turn.
Exactly. You don't need perfect English. You just need a few expressions that people really use every day.
That's what I like about this topic. I don't want to memorize a conversation. I want to know what real people actually say when they're ordering coffee.
And that's exactly what we're going to do today. By the end of this episode, you'll know how a real coffee shop conversation usually happens, from beginning to end.
Okay, let's imagine I'm standing in line. The person in front of me gets their coffee, walks away, and now it's my turn. The barista smiles at me, and my first instinct is to say, I want a coffee.
I think almost every English learner has said that at least once, because that's exactly how we'd naturally translate it from Portuguese.
Is it wrong?
Not at all. People will understand you immediately. The only thing is that native speakers usually choose softer expressions when they're ordering food or drinks.
So, I want sounds a little direct.
Exactly. It isn't impolite, but it isn't the expression you'll hear most often. Instead, people usually say, I'd like, can I get, or can I have? Those three expressions are incredibly common.
I've definitely heard can I get in movies. Now that I think about it, I hear it much more often than I want.
That's true. If you start paying attention to movies, TV shows, or even YouTube videos, you'll notice people ordering almost everything with those expressions.
So instead of saying, I want a latte, I could say, I'd like a latte, please. Or maybe, can I get a latte, please?
Exactly. Both sound completely natural. And can I have a latte, please, is another great option. You really don't have to memorize 10 different ways to order a coffee. Those three expressions will take you a long way.
That's actually good news because I was expecting something much more complicated.
That's one of the biggest surprises about everyday English. Native speakers don't invent new sentences all the time. They reuse the same patterns over and over again.
I think that's something I've started noticing recently. The vocabulary changes depending on the situation, but the sentence patterns stay surprisingly similar.
Exactly. That's why listening is so valuable. Every time you hear those patterns, they become a little more familiar. Then one day, instead of translating them, you simply start using them naturally.
Let me practice for a second. I'd like a latte, please. Can I get a latte, please? Can I have a latte, please? You know what? They already sound much more natural than I want a latte.
They do. And the more you say them out loud, the more comfortable they'll feel. Listening helps your ears recognize the expression, but saying it helps your mouth remember it too.
That's something I don't do enough. I spend a lot of time listening to English, but I rarely stop and repeat the sentences myself.
That's a habit worth building. You don't have to practice for an hour. Even repeating 1 or 2 sentences every day helps your brain connect listening and speaking.
I like that because it feels realistic. I could easily pause a podcast, repeat one sentence, and then keep listening.
Exactly. Small habits are much easier to keep, and after a while, you'll notice those expressions coming out much more naturally when it's your turn to speak.
Okay, I think I'm finally ready to order my coffee.
I think you are too. But there's one detail almost every barista is going to ask before they start making your drink.
I have a feeling I know what you're going to say. Even if I order my coffee perfectly, the conversation probably isn't over yet.
You're right. Most of the time, the barista needs one more piece of information before making your drink.
Let me guess. They're going to ask about the size.
Exactly. If you simply say, can I get a latte, please? The next question will probably be, what size would you like?
That actually makes sense because I never told them how big I wanted it.
Right. And once you know that's coming, you can make your order sound even more natural by including the size from the beginning.
So instead of saying, can I get a latte, please? I could say, can I get a medium latte, please?
Exactly. That's how many people would order it, and it saves the barista from asking one more question.
Is the size always before the drink?
Most of the time, yes. You'll usually hear small latte, medium cappuccino, or large black coffee. It's a very common pattern.
I like that because it's another pattern instead of another rule. Once I understand it, I can use it with almost any drink.
That's exactly how native speakers think. They don't memorize a different sentence for every coffee. They simply change a few words.
Let me practice a little. Can I get a small latte, please?
Perfect.
I'd like a medium cappuccino, please.
Very natural.
Can I have a large black coffee, please?
Excellent. Notice how the beginning stays almost the same every time. You're only changing the size and the drink.
I think that's why this feels much easier than I expected. I'm not trying to remember 3 completely different sentences.
Exactly. You're learning a pattern that works again and again.
There's something else I just noticed. You always say large, you never say big.
Good observation. People will understand big coffee, but when you're ordering drinks, large is much more common. It's one of those little details that makes your English sound more natural.
That's exactly the kind of thing I want to learn. They're small differences, but they make a big difference when you're speaking.
They really do. And the good news is that there aren't many of those differences. Once you notice them, you start hearing them everywhere.
Let me build another order. Can I get a large black coffee, please?
Perfect.
I'd like a small cappuccino, please.
Excellent.
Can I have a medium latte, please?
That sounds completely natural.
You know what? 5 minutes ago, I would have stopped after saying coffee. Now I'm already thinking about the size automatically.
That's exactly what practice does. At first, you have to think about every word. After repeating the same pattern a few times, your brain starts doing the work for you.
I'm starting to understand why people always say that repetition is so important.
Repetition is what turns knowledge into confidence. Every time you hear and say these expressions, they become a little more automatic.
I think I'm finally feeling comfortable with the beginning of the conversation.
Good, because the next question is probably the one that catches most English learners by surprise.
Now you've made me curious. What are they going to ask next?
Imagine you've just ordered your medium latte. The barista smiles and asks one very simple question: hot or iced?
That's actually a simple question, but I can imagine myself freezing for a second if someone asks me hot or iced really quickly. I know both words, but I'm not sure my brain would answer fast enough.
That's completely normal. The question isn't difficult. The challenge is that it comes immediately after you've placed your order, so your brain is still thinking about what you just said.
Exactly. I'm probably thinking, did I pronounce latte correctly? Then suddenly there's another question waiting for me.
And that's why practicing real conversations is so helpful. The more familiar the questions become, the less you'll have to think about them.
Let's practice that one a few times.
Great. Go ahead and order your coffee.
Can I get a medium latte, please?
Certainly. Hot or iced?
Hot, please.
Perfect. Let's do another one.
I'd like a large black coffee, please.
Hot or iced?
Hot, please.
Excellent. One more.
Can I have a small latte, please?
Hot or iced?
Iced, please.
Perfect. Did you notice something?
I think I did. The third time felt much easier than the first one.
Exactly. Your brain stopped translating the words and started recognizing the situation instead. That's one of the biggest advantages of repetition.
It's interesting because nothing changed. You asked exactly the same question every time, but my answer came much faster.
That's how confidence grows. It usually doesn't happen because you learned more grammar. It happens because you've heard the same situation enough times that it starts feeling familiar.
I wish I had practiced conversations like this before. I spent so much time learning vocabulary that I forgot people usually ask the same questions every day.
That's true. Real life is more repetitive than most textbooks. Once you recognize those common questions, conversations become much easier.
So now I can order the drink, choose the size, and answer whether I want it hot or iced. I already feel much more prepared than I did at the beginning of the episode.
You're doing great, but coffee shops usually have one more question before your order is complete.
Let me guess. Is this the famous for here or to go?
Exactly. That's one of the most common questions you'll ever hear in a coffee shop. And once you know it, the answer is very simple.
Let's practice it too.
Perfect. Can I get your order?
Can I get a medium iced latte, please?
For here or to go?
To go, please.
Excellent.
Let's do another one. I'd like a small cappuccino, please.
For here or to go?
For here, please.
Perfect. Those two answers are short, natural, and exactly what you'll hear people say every day. Once they become automatic, you'll be surprised by how smoothly the conversation flows.
You know what's interesting? A few minutes ago, for here or to go sounded like a difficult question. Now it feels completely normal.
That's because you've already heard it a few times. The more familiar a question becomes, the less energy your brain spends trying to understand it.
I guess that's true for almost everything in English.
It really is. And coffee shops are a great example because the conversation follows the same pattern most of the time. Once you've practiced it, you'll recognize it almost anywhere.
So, after I answer for here or to go, is my coffee finally ready?
Maybe, but not always. If you're ordering a latte or another drink with milk, there's a good chance the barista will ask you one more question.
Let me guess. It's about the milk.
Exactly. They might ask, what kind of milk would you like?
I think I'd understand the word milk, but what kind of might slow me down a little.
That's perfectly normal. The important thing is recognizing the whole question instead of translating every single word.
Okay, let's practice.
Great. Go ahead.
Can I get a medium iced latte, please?
Sure. What kind of milk would you like?
Oat milk, please.
Perfect.
Again, I'd like a small latte, please.
What kind of milk would you like?
Whole milk, please.
Excellent.
One more. Can I have a large latte, please?
What kind of milk would you like?
Almond milk, please.
Perfect.
Those answers are actually much shorter than I imagined.
And that's another thing you'll notice in real conversations. The questions are often longer than the answers.
You're right. I don't have to say, I'd like oat milk, please. Just saying, oat milk, please, already sounds natural.
Exactly. People usually answer with just the information that's needed. Short answers help the conversation move naturally.
That's actually a relief. I always thought I needed complete sentences for everything.
A lot of learners think that, but if someone asks you what kind of milk you'd like, they're only waiting for one piece of information.
So, oat milk, please, is enough?
More than enough.
I think that's one of my favorite lessons today. Speaking naturally isn't about saying more. Sometimes it's about saying less.
That's a great way to put it. Simple English often sounds the most natural because that's how people communicate every day.
Let me see if I can do the whole conversation so far. Can I get a medium iced latte, please?
For here or to go?
To go, please.
What kind of milk would you like?
Oat milk, please.
Perfect. You're answering every question naturally now.
I'm starting to feel much more confident.
Good, because there's one more question you might hear before your order is finished.
Don't tell me there's another one.
Just one more. And don't worry, the answer is even shorter than the ones you've already practiced.
Now I'm curious. What could the next question be?
Imagine everything is ready. You've ordered your drink, chosen the size, answered hot or iced, decided if it's for here or to go, and even picked the type of milk. At that point, some baristas will ask you one last question. Would you like any sugar?
That one sounds much easier.
It is. The nice thing is that the answers are usually very short.
Let me think. If I don't want sugar, I can simply say, no sugar, please.
Exactly. That's probably the most common answer.
And if I do want sugar, I just say, with sugar, please.
Perfect. There's another option you'll hear quite often too. Some people say, with a sweetener, please.
That's actually useful because not everyone uses sugar anymore.
Exactly. Coffee shops usually have both options, so it's a very practical expression to know.
Let's practice again.
Go ahead.
Can I get a medium iced latte, please?
For here or to go?
To go, please.
What kind of milk would you like?
Oat milk, please.
Would you like any sugar?
No sugar, please.
Perfect.
Let's try another one. I'd like a large black coffee, please.
For here or to go?
For here, please.
Would you like any sugar?
With sugar, please.
Excellent.
One more. Can I have a small cappuccino, please?
For here or to go?
To go, please.
Would you like any sugar?
With a sweetener, please.
Perfect.
I'm noticing something interesting.
What is it?
Every answer is really short. I thought speaking English meant making long sentences, but most of the conversation is just answering simple questions.
That's exactly how real conversations work. People usually give just enough information to keep the conversation moving.
I think that's something many English learners don't realize. We spend so much time trying to create perfect sentences that we forget everyday conversations are actually very simple.
That's true. Native speakers aren't trying to sound impressive. They're simply communicating.
And because the questions follow a pattern, the answers become easier too.
Exactly. Once you recognize the situation, you stop translating every word and start responding automatically.
I can already feel that happening. At the beginning of the episode, I was thinking about every sentence. Now I'm mostly thinking about what kind of coffee I want.
That's a great sign. It means your attention is moving away from the language and toward the conversation itself.
I never imagined ordering a coffee could teach so much about speaking English.
That's why we like everyday situations. They may seem simple, but they show how English is actually used in real life.
So, is my coffee finally ready now?
Almost. There's one last question that surprises many English learners the first time they hear it. And once you know the answer, you'll be ready for almost any coffee shop conversation.
Okay, now I'm really curious. What's the last question?
Imagine you've already ordered everything. The size, the drink, hot or iced, for here or to go, the milk, the sugar, everything is done. Then the barista smiles and asks, "Can I get a name for the cup?"
I know every single word in that sentence, but I'm not sure I'd understand it the first time.
And that's exactly why it's worth practicing. Once you know the question, you'll probably hear it in almost every coffee shop where they write customers' names on the cups.
So they're simply asking for my name.
Exactly. They want to write it on your cup so they can call you when your drink is ready.
I think my first reaction would be, do I have to answer with a complete sentence?
That's a very common question, but the answer is no. Most people simply say their name.
Just Lucas.
Exactly.
Not, my name is Lucas.
You can say that, but it's much more common to simply answer, Lucas.
That's even easier.
It is. Just like we talked about before, everyday conversations are usually much shorter than learners imagine.
Let's do one complete conversation from beginning to end.
Great idea. I'll be the barista. Hi, what can I get for you today?
Can I get a medium iced latte, please?
For here or to go?
To go, please.
What kind of milk would you like?
Oat milk, please.
Would you like any sugar?
No sugar, please.
Perfect. Can I get a name for the cup?
Lucas.
Great. Your coffee will be ready in a few minutes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know what surprised me the most?
What was that?
I understood the whole conversation without translating it into Portuguese.
That's a really important moment. Instead of thinking about individual words, you started recognizing the situation.
I think that's why the conversation suddenly felt easier.
Exactly. Our brains love familiar patterns. The more often you hear the same type of conversation, the more automatic your answers become.
And I also realized something else. Every question had a very simple answer.
That's true. Real conversations are usually built with simple questions and simple answers. We often think we need advanced English, but everyday situations rarely require it.
I wish someone had shown me this years ago. I spent so much time studying grammar that I never practiced conversations like this.
That's why we created this podcast. We want you to hear the English people actually use, so when you're in a real situation, it already feels familiar.
I have to admit, if I walked into a coffee shop today, I think I'd actually enjoy the conversation instead of worrying about making mistakes.
And that's exactly the confidence we're trying to build. Not perfect English, but practical English that helps you communicate naturally in everyday life.
You know what? At the beginning of this episode, I thought ordering coffee was just one sentence. Now I realize it's a whole conversation, but it's much simpler than I imagined.
I think that's the biggest lesson. It isn't about knowing hundreds of words. It's about understanding the flow of the conversation.
And every question follows naturally. First, I order my drink, then I answer one question, then another. Step by step, everything starts making sense.
Exactly. How about one final challenge before we finish?
I was hoping you'd say that.
This time, I'll be the barista again, but I won't slow down. I'll ask the questions the way you might hear them in a real coffee shop.
Okay, let's do it.
Hi, what can I get for you today?
Can I get a medium iced latte, please?
For here or to go?
To go, please.
What kind of milk would you like?
Oat milk, please.
Would you like any sugar?
No sugar, please.
Can I get a name for the cup?
Lucas.
Perfect. Your coffee will be ready in just a few minutes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.
That sounded much more natural.
It really did. The interesting part is that I wasn't thinking about grammar anymore. I was simply listening to your questions and answering them.
That's exactly what happens in real conversations. You don't have time to analyze every sentence. You recognize the situation, understand the question, and respond naturally.
I think that's why practicing complete conversations is so valuable. You stop focusing on isolated words and start paying attention to how everything connects.
That's a great observation. English isn't just vocabulary. It's also knowing what usually comes next.
And once you know that, you feel much more relaxed because there are fewer surprises.
Exactly. Of course, every conversation is a little different, but the pattern stays surprisingly similar.
I also realized something else today. Most of my answers were only 2 or 3 words long.
That's how everyday conversations usually work. People don't try to sound complicated. They simply communicate.
I think that's something I'll remember the next time I practice English. I don't need perfect sentences. I need familiar situations.
I couldn't agree more. The more situations you practice, the more confident you'll become. And little by little, speaking English starts feeling much more natural.
I have to admit, I wasn't expecting to learn this much from something as simple as ordering a coffee.
That's one of the reasons we enjoy talking about everyday situations. They may seem simple, but they're the conversations people actually have every single day.
And I think that's what made today different for me. Instead of memorizing one perfect dialogue, I learned how the conversation naturally develops.
Exactly. Once you understand the flow, every new conversation becomes a little easier because you already know what kinds of questions to expect.
I also realized that speaking English isn't always about knowing more vocabulary. Sometimes it's about becoming comfortable with situations you've practiced before.
I couldn't agree more. The more familiar a situation becomes, the less you focus on the language and the more you enjoy the conversation itself.
I think that's a much better way to learn English.
We do too. That's why every episode of this podcast is built around real conversations you'll probably experience someday.
And I already know what I'm going to do the next time I order a coffee.
What's that?
I'm going to stop translating everything in my head, take a deep breath, smile, and simply start with, "Can I get?"
That's a great place to start. The conversation usually takes care of the rest.
Before we go, we'd love to hear from you. How do you usually drink your coffee? Do you prefer a latte, a cappuccino, a black coffee, or maybe an iced coffee?
And have you ever ordered coffee in English? Maybe it went perfectly, or maybe something unexpected happened. Tell us your story in the comments because we'd really love to read about your experience.
And if you've never ordered coffee in English before, tell us how you would order your favorite drink after listening to today's episode.
We read your comments every week, and they also help us choose topics for future episodes. So don't be shy. We'd love to hear from you.
If today's episode helped you feel a little more confident speaking English, don't forget to give this video a like.
And make sure you follow the channel so you don't miss our next real-life English conversation. Every new episode is designed to help you understand and speak English more naturally, one conversation at a time.
Thanks so much for spending this time with us.
Take care, keep practicing, and we'll see you in the next episode of Speak English with Podcasts.